Very good evening, all of you. Warm welcome to our regular seminar, which we have every Wednesday religiously. And on behalf of all and FDPPI and the Program Management Committee, I have pleasure in introducing Mr. Yogesh, who is our guest speaker today. Very quickly to introduce him, he comes with the kind of lots of experience, kind of certifications. What he has done is great. I'm sure I don't want to miss any of the certification, Mr. Yogesh. In case if I miss, feel free to correct me. It goes like this: QSA, IP, CISA, ISO 27001 lead auditor, ITL, and so on. And he is a life member of Computer Society of India and member of ISC 2. And he comes with 16 years of experience. It really varies from PCI DSS to cyber security with a kind of framework, NIST to etc. ISO 27001, Service Management System 20000, GDPR, data security, privacy, governance, and so on. And I'm sure today is going to be quite interesting for all of us to listen to him. And I'm sure it will benefit all of us. Without holding further, I would request Mr. Yogesh to take the floor. And Yogesh sir, warm welcome to you. And once again, on behalf of all of us, would like to thank you for your kindness to share your experience. Please go ahead. Thank you very much.
Fine. So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for your nice introduction. So today we will see the PCI DSS, one of the framework, which is again the data security framework, how we can utilize this data security framework for data privacy. So just to start, we at SecureWise, we want to salute all the warriors who are serving humanity and saving lives. Before starting, just a disclaimer that all the product names, logos, and brands are proprietary or property of their respective owners. All company, product, and service names which are used in this session or presentation are just for identification purpose only, and that too for education and awareness purpose. The SecureWise Enhanced Security is our own registered trademark. So just if we can mute, all of you can, and if we can stop video for better conservation of bandwidth, that will be great. So what I'm going to cover today is for the benefit of larger audience, we'll talk about the payment card industry and PCI DSS, this payment card industry data security standard in all, and how we can utilize it for data privacy and some light on security and compliance. But to start with, I want to set the context right. So we'll discuss about data security and data privacy before we start. So when we talk about data privacy, now data privacy, as we all are in data security and privacy domain, most of us and all of us know what data privacy is. So the data privacy is the ability of individual to determine when, how, and to what extent information about them is used or disclosed to others. Now this information ranges in various ways. It can be a personal information, it can be a personally identifiable information, sensitive information, or health related information, or financial information. When we talk on to the other aspect of security, the data security helps us to provide the CIA factor. Apart from CIA, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, there are a lot of other factors which are authentication, authorization, non-repudiation, etc. So when we talk about data security we employ through the best practices, and it is including the people, processes, and technologies which are used to protect the information so that we can minimize the potential of data breaches or security compromise. So when we talk about data privacy, it is the ability of the individual that what kind of data we can use of that particular individual or the organization can use. And when we talk about the security, once that data is with the organization, what kind of responsibility that organization holds to safeguard the data. Now, when we talk about the data security is best protected with the specific security standards and requirements. And one of the specific security standards and the requirement is PCI DSS. So we will talk about PCI DSS and how we can utilize that for the data security and privacy part. So even in our personal data protection bill, chapter 1 clause 3 talks about important definition on personal data and sensitive personal data. So it clearly identifies what personal data means, that the data about or relating to a natural person who is directly or indirectly identifiable. And in sensitive personal information, apart from lot of other kind of data, which includes health related data or official identifier or transgender status or genetic data, caste or tribe, sex life or sexual orientation, biometric data, there is one important aspect which talks about financial data. Now, at this point of time, financial data is still considered as a sensitive personal data as per PDPB, Personal Data Protection Bill. And going forward, we still, as the bill is still in with the standing committee, we don't know what changes will be done to the bill and especially to the financial data. So when we are talking about financial data includes a lot of other things like assets, liabilities, equity, income, expense, cash flow. Not only that, it can be any number or other personal data which is used to identify an account. So the account numbers or the personal data which is regarding the relationship between the financial institution and data principal. So here, if you'll see, card and the payment instrument is also a financial data. Now, where PCI DSS pitch in is when we talk about the card related data, right? So as card related data is also a financial data, which is again a sensitive personal information as per PDPB, that is where this PCI DSS is utilized. And at a larger, when we expand the definition of the data itself to include other set of data, we can utilize the framework for effective data security and data privacy implementation in any organization. Now, when we talk about the card related data or card data or plastic card or payment cards, now this plastic card or payment card are not new to the market. We are using this plastic card since 1950, that is right from last 70 years. And the magnetic stripe cards which are in market, they are used from last almost 50 years. So 1970 was the first time when these magnetic stripe cards were introduced, and we are still utilizing this card. Over the period of time, there are a lot of advancement, but the card which we are talking about, there are different kind of cards, and the different kind of cards which are given to different kind of um, customers or the end users of those respective organization. So at large, we use a different kind of card like the debit card, credit card, prepaid card, and at the end, these cards are having certain value. So when we talk about the credit card, the limit the credit card is having is the value of that particular credit card. When we talk about debit card, the account with which this card is been linked is the value of that particular debit card. The prepaid card which we use is the amount which has been uh, associated with that particular card, or the value with which we purchase that prepaid card is the value of that particular card. So at the end, when we talk about the card or the data which is on the payment card or this plastic card, it holds certain value. And that is what the financial value it holds. And that is why it is considered as a financial data. Now, when we look at the card from the PCI DSS perspective, we term it as a account data. Now, on this card, there is some information which we can see with our eyes, some information which we can't see with our eyes, as it is not printed in a plain text on the card. So at large, when we see on the front side of the card, we see the customer name or the card holder name. We see the PAN or permanent account number or credit card, debit card, prepaid card number, which varies from 15 to 19 digits. And most commonly used is 16-digit card numbers. We see the expiry date on this card. We see if it is a EMV chip card. We see the EMV chip on the front side of the card. On the back side of the card, we see the magnetic stripe. So on this magnetic stripe, again, the data has been written on this magnetic stripe. So other data which is very sensitive from the PCI DSS perspective, that data is also printed on this particular card. So we call it CVV or CVV2 values, which is at the back side or front side in case of the card is American Express card. So it is called as card identification value, CID, in case of American Express card. In other case like Visa, MasterCard, JCB, Discover and other card, it is a 3 or 4 digit value which is printed at the back side of the card, and it is referred as a CAV or CVV or CVC2 values. Most of this information, when we talk from the financial data perspective or specific to PCI DSS perspective, the account data, all this data is very important. And all this data, as we discuss about this, that this card is having specific value, this data in turn is very valuable data. And that is why a lot of breaches, when they happen on this financial data or specifically on the card related data, because in the ecosystem there are so many merchants or so many places where this account data can be monetized. Now, when we talk about this particular card data or the data which is on the plastic, many organizations do these three activities on this particular data. So either this organization are storing the card holder data or storing the data which is there on the plastic, or they process it or they transmit it. So when we talk about the storage, it is very clear. When we talk about storage, it is the store when the data is in inactive state or when the data is at rest, when the data has been stored either in a file system or either it is stored on a memory or either it is stored on a hard drive or in a database. So that is referred as a store part of it. When we talk about transmit, it means data has been transmitted from one location to another location. That is, data is in motion. So data can transfer from the merchant to the processor. Data can transfer from one bank to another bank. Data is transmitting from e-commerce website to the payment gateway companies, and a lot of other cases are there where data has been transmitting. Now, how this data has been handled in each of these companies, we don't know until and unless those companies are PCI DSS compliant or those companies are utilizing some framework for data security in their organization. And all other things apart from store and transmit, they are referred as a process part. So the process is when this data has been actively used. So for example, like if someone is editing the data or someone is manipulating it or someone is entering it in one of the other system or someone is printing it or viewing it or displaying it. Now it is the controls which are implemented in lot of organization from PCI DSS perspective, and slowly when the organizations are getting PCI DSS compliant, that is why we can see lot of changes in the way this data has been handled. So many of us, we are using credit card, debit card since long. And if you had seen the changes over the period of time, you might have seen that initially when we received the SMS from bank, many times there was a full card number in those SMS. Now you will only see either first six, last four or last four digit. Even on the statement which we used to receive, either it is credit card or the account statement, they used to print the full card number, the full 16-digit card number, which they had stopped printing it because of certain controls which are implemented in the environment. And those controls are directly related to the payment card industry data security standard. So what PCI DSS has asked most of the organization or all the organization in the payment card industry is to implement certain control to minimize the risk to the payment data or to the account data. Now, when we talk about the payment card industry, in payment card industry, there are various organization, but at large, there are these four pillars or these four organization or four part which play an important role in payment card industry. Now, all of us, we use a card. So when we use a card, either it is credit, debit or prepaid card, we as an end user or end customer becomes a card holder. So any individual who is authorized to use the payment card becomes the card holder. Now this card is been given by one or the another organization. So in our case, it is always a bank or a financial institution which is giving this card. So all those institution or all those banks or organizations are issuer banks or issuing organization. So any entity that issues a payment card becomes a issuer because they are issuing this payment card. Now, when issuer has issued a payment card, and when the card holder is having this card with him, he should have certain places where he can go and use this card. So all the places where this payment card is been accepted, those organizations are termed as merchants. Now issuer issues different kind of cards as we discussed, like credit card, debit card, prepaid card. Merchants, there are different kind of merchants, like certain merchants at a broad level, they are classified as card present scenarios and card not present scenarios. So card present, where we go, for example, like in big bazaar or any shopping mall, where we swipe the card and physically touch the card or perform the transaction. So all those entities or merchants are referred as card present scenarios. At the other end, there are card not present scenarios. For example, like e-commerce gateways or e-commerce channel or mail order, telephone order or email order. So all those channels are referred as card not present scenario, where card is not physically present, but still the transaction has been done. Now, when this merchant is accepting the payment card from the end card holder, all the transactions from this merchant needs to be acquired by someone who can provide them those acquiring services. So there is this fourth kind of organization which is called as acquirer. Now these acquirers are also referred in various ways, like acquiring bank or merchant bank. Now these are the entities that maintain the relationship with merchant for the acceptance of payment cards. So whenever we use the card at any merchant place, the transaction has been acquired by the acquirer, and then the transaction is sent to the payment brand network, which goes back to the issuer for the authorization of this card. Now, when these transactions are happening, now when we are using the card, we don't realize that where this transaction or where this data has been transmitting to, or till what place that data has been transmitting to. Now, in most of the cases, we don't know that how many entities are there in between through which our data has been passing, and how this data is been stored, processed, transmitted in all of these entities which are in between. Now, at large, when we talk about the processing or when we talk about the important data flows, there are three most important data flows in this uh, payment card usage, and it is called as authorization, clearing and settlement. So what is authorization? When we use a card, we receive some authorization code or auth code or success or failure indication. So it means when we had presented that card at the merchant place, either it is card present or card not present, and when we entered our detail, the card details, or we had swiped the card, the transaction is passing from that particular merchant to acquirer, from acquirer to payment brand network, and then that network identifies that who has issued this card. So for better understanding, if we see that ICICI Bank is a issuer and HDFC Bank is an acquirer and Big Bazaar is a merchant, and we as a card holder or a customer, if we go to Big Bazaar and swipe our card, the transaction will first flow to HDFC Bank. From HDFC Bank, it will flow to the payment brand network. Now, this payment brand network depends on which card we are using. So there are a lot of different payment brands like Visa, MasterCard, JCB, MX, Discover, RuPay, China Union Pay, and a lot of other cards are there or payment brands are there. So the transaction from acquirer will go to the payment brand network, and that payment brand network will identify who is the issuer of this particular card. Once they identify that this is a issuer for the issuer for this card is ICICI Bank, the transaction will go to ICICI Bank, and ICICI Bank, the issuer bank itself, is the only entity who can authorize that transaction. So they will see, perform all the checks, and then they will authorize the transaction, and the transaction then will route back to the same merchant. Now, if you'll see, this activity hardly takes a few seconds, right? And that is what the investment this payment brand network has done into the network. And when we see this flow, it seems very simple, but in between merchant and acquirer, in between acquirer and payment brand network, and in between payment brand network and issuer, there are a lot of entities which are referred as a service provider. So there are a lot of service providers through which the data has been passing. The other flow when this data is passed is when the issuer and acquirer exchange the purchase information for reconciliation purpose. So at the end of the day, both the issuer and acquirer, they exchange all the information with payment brand for clearing purpose, and that is where the clear cut accounting is been done or reconciliation has been done for settlement. And the last cycle, which is settlement, that is where the actual money moves from issuer, as issuer pays to the acquirer, acquirer receives, and then he pays to the merchant, and merchant receives, and the card holder gets charged, where we receive the credit card statement or the entries been done on our statement, and we receive the statements. So that is why, in depending on organization to organization, immediately those transactions are not posted on the credit card statement. So if you'll see, you had done one transaction, and if you'll immediately log on to the internet banking to see either this transaction is posted there, it takes some time, and the settlement also takes some time. So as I was talking, as there are so many service providers in between, now this service provider can simply a telecom company, or it can be a data center hosting provider, or it can be a card personalization vendor, or it can be a hosting provider. So for example, like issuing bank, if bank has outsourced their card personalization activity, so then that card personalization vendor is one of the service provider. If they had outsourced their call center functionality, then call center is one of the service provider. If they had outsourced their software development services, that software development services is one of the service provider. So there are n number of service providers, and as the network is growing, as the fintech organizations are coming day by day, there are a lot of entities which are coming or becoming a part of this payment card industry ecosystem. Now, when we are talking about this different companies and different organization and the data, which is a financial data, the card data, which can be monetized. So the organization or the payment brand realize that there is a risk to this particular data, and we should come up with some compliance program. And that is where all this payment brand, they came up with their individual compliance program. So for example, like American Express have their own compliance program called data security operating policy. Visa have different program called CISP and AIS, like account information security or cardholder information security program. And JCB, Mastercard, Discover, they have their own program. But if you'll see, it becomes very difficult from the issuing and acquiring point of view, that if they are acquiring all the transaction for all the banks, then they have to comply to multiple programs. So that is where this five payment brand, Visa, Mastercard, JCB, MX, and Discover, they came together in 2006, and they formed a council. So the name of this council is PCI Security Standards Council. Now, the council is an open global forum. It is an independent industry standard body. So it is not something what regulator is asking. It is not something any legal requirement is there in any country, but it is an industry standard body which is independent, which is established by them. But saying that, lot of other countries and lot of other regulators, they had accepted what PCI-SSC is doing or what kind of frameworks they had designed, and that is why they are mandating the respective organization or financial institution in those countries. So talking from India perspective, RBI has already mandated all the acquiring banks to be PCI DSS compliant. Not only that, they had mandated the PA DSS compliant application should only be used in banks. So this shows a lot of countries they had accepted, and as it is worldwide, as it is a global, so many other countries has also accepted. In case, for example, like Thailand, their central bank has recommended PCI DSS. Indonesia, Nigeria, these are some of the countries where they had already their regulators already asked them to implement, and all or most of the banks are already compliant against PCI DSS. So the work of PCI SSC is to uh, is to develop, manage, educate, and create awareness on this PCI DSS standards or PCI security standards. They also maintain the list of all qualified assessor community. So like qualified security assessors or PA assessors or internal security assessors or forensic investigators. They maintain list of all validated payment application, hardware, P2P solutions. So if any new bank is there or new financial institution is there where they had started afresh and they want to procure certain applications, they can refer this list. If they want to procure some hardware, they can refer this list, and all these hardware solutions are already approved. So already approved means they are already validated against those respective standards. Not only that, they have lot of other organization. They work as a participating organization with PCI SSC. They also keep on conducting lot of community meetings. So some are open for general public, some are only for the community. Now when the participating organizations are there, so NPCI is also one of the participating organization with PCI SSC. And lot of work which PCI SSC is doing, that work is also provided, or those drafts are also provided to participating organization. Not only that, the board which is at the higher end, who is managing the council, it is formed by this participating organization itself. Now when any new control is been inbuilt into the standard, it becomes easier for participating organization to inbuild that control in their technology. So a lot of technology companies are also part of the council. They work as a participating organization. So as of today, more than 700 organizations are there worldwide which are working as a participating organization with council. So there are different roles and responsibilities under this PCI. So we discussed about card brand,
ಅದು
which sit
ಇನ್ನೊಂದು
at
ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ
a,
ನೋಡು.
hello, can you please mute your mic? Yeah. So at a higher level, it is card brands which enforce and promote the adoption of all these standards which are established by PCI SSC. Then the work of PCI SSC is to maintain the list, create, document, develop, educate, create awareness. And merchants, acquiring banks, service providers are the organizations which require compliance against PCI DSS. And there are companies like QSAs and ASVs which provide these services. So QSAs like us, we interpret and do the assessment and attest the organization that they had implemented the required security controls. And ASVs are approved scanning vendor, where certain requirements are there which needs to be continuously monitored on quarterly basis. That scanning is needs to be done on public IP addresses for that organization. Now when we are talking about the council and their standard. Apart from this PCI DSS, the council, when they started in 2006 with one standard, which was PCI DSS. Over the period of time in 2020, there are more than 15 different standards which are established by PCI SSC. Now we will only talk about PCI DSS, and maybe we can have a separate session for other standard if it is required. Now, when we talk about the compliance of this PCI DSS, so PCI DSS is applicable to all the entities which are involved in payment card processing, including all the merchants, processors, acquirers, issuers, and service providers. It is also applicable to all other entities that are either storing and or processing and or transmitting the cardholder data, or sensitive authentication data, or at large the account data. Now, why organization should become a PCI DSS compliance? As I mentioned, for most of them, regulatory requirement, even though it is an industry standard, lot of regulators, they had asked, or they depending on different geographies, local regulators are also enforcing this PCI DSS. In most of the case, it becomes the business related requirement. For example, if it is a data center where the bank or any organization which is undergoing PCI DSS, if they are hosting their servers, their infrastructure in that data center also needs to be PCI DSS compliant. So as such, they are not storing, processing, or transmitting any data, but as the infrastructure is hosted there, they are still responsible and accountable for the physical security of those infrastructure. And that is why then for those kind of organization, it becomes the business related requirement, and that is why they become a PCI DSS compliant. At large, for other organization, they can voluntarily adopt the framework and use it to remain resilient against data breaches. So this is a continuous process. PCI DSS is not a one-time activity which is done at one given point of time and it is done. No, so PCI DSS is an annual compliance program, and once the organization is compliant against PCI DSS, they have to ensure that they remain compliant against PCI DSS year on year. And when they need, or when they undergo recertification or recompliance, there are a lot of activities which needs to be done. So it talks about daily log monitoring. So lot of controls are there which needs to be inbuilt into the organization's BAU, into the organization's process, and it has to be recomplied or recertified on annual basis. So this is what the background of PCI DSS, PCI SSC, PCI. Now we will talk about the PCI DSS itself, and we will check how we can utilize this PCI DSS. So the PCI DSS, the current framework, which is the latest one, is version 3.2.1, which was released in 2018, and it became mandatory from 1st of January 2019. Now, there was another version, the updated version, version 4, which was expected this year, but then because of the current situation, it is pushed to next year, and we can expect another version, which is version 4 or 4.0 in next year, which is 2021. So at large, there are 6 major goals which are divided in 12 different requirements, and this 12 different requirement at the end, there are more than 450 validation points or testing procedures or controls or implementation points, depending on organization to organization, depending on business to business, and depending on their scope, they have to, or they need to implement all those controls. So PCI DSS, the 6 major goals, when we see, it talks about build and maintain a secure network and system. So automatically it addresses the network security, system security part. Then it talks about protect card holder data, the second goal, which automatically addresses the storage, the 3 important concepts which we saw: store, process, and transmit. So requirement number 3 addresses the storage part of it, and requirement number 4 addresses the transmission part of it. Requirement number 3 also addresses the processing part of the data. And in requirement number 1, the requirement number 1 addresses the network related security, how the firewall configurations are done, how the network architecture is done, what are the data flows, how the data is flowing in the organization. And second requirement talks about the system related security. So it also talks about the wireless related security. The third goal, maintain a vulnerability management program. Here it addresses the malware program, antivirus, the requirement of antivirus. Sixth talks about the development part of it, the security when the applications are developed, the vulnerability management which needs to be done, the web application firewall if the organization is utilizing web applications. The fourth goal talks about the access control measures, to implement the strong access control measures. So there are 7, 8, and 9 requirements. So 7 talks about need to know basis access control. 8 talks about all identification, authentication controls on database. 9 talks about the physical security which is required for the organization. Fifth goal talks about regularly monitoring and testing the network. So here there are 2 requirements. The 10th addresses the log management part, time synchronization part, and 11 talks about regularly testing the security system. So a lot of requirements are there which needs to be done on quarterly basis. For example, like internal vulnerability assessment, external vulnerability assessment, which is mandated by PCI DSS to be performed on quarterly basis. And the last requirement talks about maintaining an information security policy. So all risk assessment, PCI DSS charter, third party compliance or service providers compliance, incident response, risk assessment, policies, procedures, role of CISO, all trainings, human resource related security, all are addressed in requirement number 12. So what PCI DSS is providing guideline from account data point of view is, so we discussed that there are different data element on the card. So some data element, it has clearly mandated that the organization cannot store. So the sensitive authentication data, for example, like the full track data or CVV data or pin block or the equivalent chip data which is there on the EMV chip, none of the organizations which are compliant against PCI DSS, those organizations will never store this sensitive authentication data. Other data, when we talk about the card number, the PAN permanent primary account number, card holder names, and other data. So those data can be stored in the organization, but then certain control needs to be implemented. So if the organization is storing the PAN, that is a primary account number, they need to ensure that the data is rendered unreadable as per requirement number 3.4. And the way it needs to be rendered unreadable, those methods are also given. So there are 4 different ways which PCI DSS has given, 4 different methodologies. It talks about either tokenization or encryption or truncation or one-way hash. So it depends what organization need to implement. Now, these are some of the details. I will not go in much of this because I had given in respect of time. I will just cover at a high level. So the requirement number 1, as I told, it talks about a lot of things related to network security. Either it is network review, network architecture, the employee-owned devices. 2 talks about all non-console access, SSL, configuration standard, wireless devices. Third talks about data retention, disposal, sensitive authentication data, masking of PAN. That is what I was giving you example. The card holder data when it is stored, key encryption and related key management, the way data has been transmitted, data in transit, the end user messaging technologies the organization is using. Fifth talks about antivirus and the management of antivirus program in the organization. Sixth covers the software development process, change management, common coding vulnerabilities, patch management. Seven covers the access part of it based on need to know basis and automated access control. It covers the identification and authentication, privilege access management, remote access management, non-console administrative access, database related controls. Nine talks about the physical security, vendor management, backup management, the storage facility where backup has been stored, inventory of all the devices where this card data can be accepted. 10th covers the audit trail, time synchronization, and 11th covers the internal vulnerability assessment, external vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, internal, external, IDS, IPS, FIM related controls. And the last 12 talks about all policies, procedures, risk management, charter, security awareness, background checks, service provider or third party management, their compliance, incident response, and the security control part of it. So if we see all these controls from the compliance point of view and how it can help in data privacy. Now, at large, when we talk about the privacy part of it, and we come to the data security, we require almost same controls or the same kind of controls on the data, which requires to be safeguarded in the organization. So PCI DSS already covers lot of things, right from network security, system security, endpoint security, human resource security, data storage control, controls on data storage part, anti-malware, security vulnerability management, SDLC security, log management, physical security, access control, information security policy, risk management, third-party compliance, incident response. And when we talk about the implementation in any organization from GDPR point of view or even the PDPV point of view, we talk about five different steps, right from building a program and team, and then assessing the risk and creating the awareness in the organization, designing and implementing the operational controls, and managing and enhancing the controls, and then demonstrating the ongoing compliance. So if you can see the boxes which I had marked in gray color, the dark gray color, those are some of the additional points which needs to be addressed when the organization is already a PCI DSS compliant, or per se if they are compliant to any of the information security management standard. These are some of the point which needs to be addressed on top of the existing PCI DSS framework. So obviously how to obtain and manage consent, that is one part. How we are managing the or how individual data protection rights are being managed in the organization. DPI can still be integrated with the organization's risk assessment. The reporting is different for both the compliance for PCI DSS and for this GDPR or PDPA. So the internal external reporting will be separate. Appointing DPO is one of the tasks. PCI mandates the organization to have CISO. DPO is mandated from the compliance, from the privacy part of it. And the way privacy notice and dispute resolution mechanism can be addressed, that is somewhat which is separate. But apart from this, if you will see, either it is conducting a risk assessment or developing the policies and procedures or communicating or training part of it, or third party management is there, or data breach response plan, incident response plan is there, or incident management is there, physical, technical, and administrative safeguards are there, data flow or data inventory is there. All this are already part of PCI DSS framework. Apart from this, the important concept what we talk about privacy by design, that also can be integrated in the requirement number 6, which is software development life cycle. Apart from that, there is data audit which can be included on the quarterly audit, which is again another requirement in PCI DSS. So at large, when we are talking about the organization to be compliant, either from data security point of view or data privacy point of view, So data security and data privacy is always a management issue, the organization management's issue. And most of the time only technology cannot solve this problem. So technology with right combination of process, people will provide the right kind of security and right kind of uh, controls in the organization, which will ensure that the right data security and data privacy has been implemented in the organization. And when we talk about the security part of it and the compliance part of it, now PCI DSS is a compliance program, and per se many organization they take all this program, all the certification only from the compliance point of view. But compliance, when we see the compliance is just a state at a given point of time. When we talk about security, security is a process. So security is never a product, or it is not a product that we purchased a product, installed, and now the organization or we are secure. So it is always a process, and the process involves the right people, technology to achieve that right kind of security. And when we talk about compliance, so as I mentioned, compliance is just at a given point of time, is just a state as at a given point of time. And being compliant at one point of time does not mean that the organization is secure every day. And that is why we see a lot of cases where data breach is there or hacking activities are conducted in those organizations. And the lack, from my point of view, what we see in the industry is most of the organization, when they implement any framework, either it is PCI DSS or ISO 27001 or HIPAA or any other framework, NIST CSF or any other framework, they always try to find out that whatever bare minimum things are required from compliance point of view, we need to do those things. But if the organization start following or run behind the security instead of compliance, compliance is a byproduct. It will automatically flow and come. So if the organization is secure, compliance is automatically there for those organizations. So this is the last slide. Thank you. If you have any questions, I guess I had completed in time. We still have 10-15 minutes to discuss. So if you can unmute, if anyone have any questions, we will discuss. And if anyone want to add on any of this slide, please feel free to add.
Mr. Yogesh, this is
Yeah.
Ramesh here.
Yeah, Ramesh.
I had collated all the questions posted by our people in the chat. Yeah.
Yes.
So I will go one by one. I'm sure others can, if as and when they have the question, they can add it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that is fine. Yeah.
All right. The first question, first of all, I would like to really thank you very much. An excellent presentation, crisp and neat. Yeah, thank you very much. The first question is, are only the banks / financial institutions allowed to issue the payment cards?
Okay. So see, it depends on the local regulator in that respective country. Nobody can immediately start issuing the cards. Okay, so here in India, we require license from RBI to issue any kind of card. Unless and until that license is there, institution cannot issue the cards.
Okay. Okay. Great. The second question is it possible technologically to stop the fraudulent transactions? Is the question.
Yes. So it is very much possible. So if you see, I had given you the flow, right?
Yeah.
The way transactions are flowing. Now, in each of this transaction, when the transaction is flowing from merchant to acquirer and acquirer to payment brand, lot of algorithms and lot of AI ML is being introduced into the transaction, okay, by the payment brand network. And year on year, they had saved lot of financial gains or financial currency or dollars or INR in fraudulent transactions. So yes, it is possible, and that is where there are a lot of fraud management softwares also. So at the issuer end, they always use the fraud management softwares where the transaction is been passed and the transaction is been checked. Okay, so for example, if you are sitting here in India and you had performed one transaction in India, and next day the same you had performed transaction on the same card from, say, maybe US. So is it possible for you to travel from India to US immediately on the next day? Okay, so this is one kind of rule or in the fraud management system. So like this, based on individual profile, they keep on building lot of rules. Some are generic rules, some are individual specific rules. In some countries or even in India, if you are performing high value transactions, so that transaction will not immediately be approved. So many times you will get a call from bank. So it purely depends on the risk assessment of the bank, the the way they are managing the risk in their operational risk and the financial risk in the bank. Based on that, they identify that this is a value, and then they will immediately call the customer and check either this transaction needs to be approved or not, or either they had performed this transaction or not.
Excellent.
Yeah.
One more question. It says that just curious to know what is the exact time frame within which wrong transactions can be reported and reverted back.
Okay. So see, exact time frame, until and unless there are now various ways of identifying, and that is where after each and every transaction we receive SMS, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we had not received the SMS, we will only come to know about that transaction when we receive the credit card statement. Okay, so
Yeah.
for individual, it is separate. For each one of us, there is a separate billing cycle. So those statements are generated as per the billing cycle. So it is as soon as possible you come to know that this is a fraudulent transaction which you had not performed, you can immediately contact your issuing inform them.
Great. I understand. Another question, two questions, but I'm trying to combine it.
Yeah.
The ISO 27001, 27002, what you already talked about, information security management system, does it add value here? I think you covered it. That sets the base, you already, that mapping what you showed, right?
Yes. So
And
to answer, yes, it adds value because see, if you had implemented ISO 27001 in right spirit,
yeah,
most of the policies, procedures, and controls we can utilize when we are implementing the PCI DSS.
right. Right. So what I understand is that probably the 114 controls of 27002 getting mapped to that 425 or 450 testing procedures or etc. what you talked about, if I'm right, correct?
Right, right.
Great. And apart from that, you also talked about if I'm linking the data privacy further, whether it is GDPR, PDPB, you touched upon other gray, dark gray boxes. Yeah.
Right, right.
Excellent. And another question related to this is what are the additional things we need to go beyond NIST framework and etc. Do we need to really?
So see, any framework, right? Now, for example, like when the organization is adopting any kind of framework, either it is PCI DSS or ISO or CIS, critical security control, it is just the starting point.
Correct.
Okay, and that is why PCI DSS, when it was version 1.2, they came up with a cycle, a life cycle for the frame for the standard itself, and every 3 years that standard was revised. So they saying that it is not necessary that once one framework has been implemented that is sufficient. It purely depends from the risk perspective of that organization, right? What is the risk appetite for that organization and what they need to implement further.
Right. Yeah. Great. And there was a question that there was a data breach with the NPCI recently. Can you please comment on it and what went wrong?
NPCI. So when it has happened, I had not came across any
Okay.
recent data
Shanai,
breaches. Yeah.
Shanai, would you like to give a detail?
It happened in April, and there is a public, the article and the findings and the process that NPCI has followed, that has been published and it has been identified. There was weak audit controls with this NPCI infrastructure, which has led to this. So they are now going to further enhance those required controls and strengthen the entire process.
Sure.
So just wanted to check whether you have some additional information. That is the
No, no, no. I don't have any additional information on that.
Okay. Okay. I think probably last question. This is from Mr. Samir. Samir said that he wanted to talk about network security question. Samir, can you please go ahead?
Yeah. So Mr. Yogesh, very well
Yeah.
presented. Thanks a lot. You mentioned about one of the requirements, I think on this, on the bar chart kind of thing you were showing. Yeah, this one. Network. So my question is that the security norm as defined in this PCI DSS 3.21 is, does it talk about actually reading the packet or the or what does it talk about situational awareness, for example, which is like preemptive? So if I have a large network like all these setups have, so does it talk about using some kind of AI to be able to track, let's say, some kind of odd behavior? Does it talk of network behavior analytics as a basic requirement or no?
So to answer that, the answer is no. Okay. Why the answer is no? See, the framework which is designed, it is designed keeping in mind that it will be used across the world. Okay. So anywhere you go, the framework is same. Either it is India or US or Japan or Middle East, anywhere, or Africa, the framework is same.
Okay.
Now, if you'll see, the technology in all these countries or in all these geographies is different. So if certain requirements are there which cannot be sufficed in one of the geography, the whole purpose will not met. So that is why, even if I have to talk, if I have to give you example, requirement number 8 talks about password policy. So the password, the length of that password is still 7 characters. Okay.
Okay.
Now the 7 character password is a breakable password, right? It will not take one day also with the current computing power to break that power, that password. But still that is included in the framework. Now this framework, we have to consider it as a best practice. Okay. It will not give you very advanced kind of control, but with the upcoming version, which is version 4, most of these things they are trying to incorporate, because that is what feedback council has received from lot of the community. When we do the engagements, when we do the assessment, we find what is mentioned in the framework, the organization has implemented much more security controls there. So to incorporate those, that is what the new framework will incorporate all those controls. The added security is always welcome.
All right. Okay. So you are saying basically they are kept it at a minimum level so that everybody in the world, all the countries can afford to follow these, right?
Right, right.
All right. Thanks.
Great. Yogesh sir, last question.
Yes.
This is from Dr. Mahendra. If the same amount transaction is repeatedly carried out, how AI works to identify whether these are genuine?
Right. So it will be purely dependent on the rules which are written in at the issuing bank. Okay. For example, if you are repeating 200 rupees transaction 1,000 times. Okay, so if the rule is written that okay, same transaction maximum 5 times it can accept, so the sixth transaction will immediately give the red flag.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Great. I think there is no more question. Once again, thanks, and I will leave it to Mr. Samir. Samir, can you please take it forward? Great.
So,
Fine. So here
so
are my
this is-
details.
yeah.
Yes. So thank you. Here are my details. If anyone of you wants
Yes,
to
yes.
anything.
My first point would have been that one, to give us your mail ID and all. So you've given that. Thank you, Mr. Yogesh. My name is Samir Mathur, and I think you, although many of us would know a lot of things here, many points are very well explained by you, and I felt that the clarity of thought and how you simply put it was really admirable. And what I've also liked is that you kept it on the ground I've noted down that point where you said that most of the corporates look at the minimum requirement in terms of compliance and let's follow that. So they are
Right.
doing it because it's part of the compliance. They need a stamp to show and go to the regulator. So I am very much impressed with this presentation. Thank you very much on behalf of FDPI. And I have noted down your mail ID at least. I'll surely get back to you with some more queries on this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you. Mr.
Great, sir.
Dinesh.
Thank you very much, all of you. Thanks.
Yogesh. Samir,
Thank
Ramesh.
thank you, Yogesh.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Jalepu.
yes, sir.
Yogesh, thank you very much from Mumbai Regional Council.